They begin to say things to themselves like, I'm no good, or I can't do this, which inhibits their ability to maintain attention and actually recruit their cognitive processes.
It's a very maladaptive feedback cycle that you approach a task with anxiety because of concerns about your own performance. That distracts from your attention, your ability to focus on and process the information that's being provided, which impairs your performance more, which increases your anxiety, and this cycle continues to amplify itself.
If they're distracted by the feeling that they cannot do the task well, if they're saying to themselves at the same time, I'm not good at this, I don't like this, this is not fun, other children do this better than I do, I'm never going to learn it. All that talk and that emotional arousal is taking up what people call M space, or cognitive space, in the task. And when that happens, those distractions diminish the child's ability to actually do the task that they're now struggling with.
So there's a negative side, there's a dark side to it.
Yeah, in fact, one of the books I'm working on is called The Dark Side of Learning. Because until such time as we understand that learning can fundamentally disable learning, then our education is like disconnected from a really critical layer of human learning. So again, you can think of healthy learning as things that create infrastructure and emotional orientations that enable us to extend our learning. Like scaffolding, like a worker who uses building scaffolding to extend their range of work. Healthy learning creates scaffolding, good scaffolding. Unhealthy learning creates cognitive infrastructure that works against ongoing learning. One great example of this is in reading.
One of the reasons, big puzzle, why kids have great excitation in their language areas, poor readers do, is because they're trying to treat the task as a verbal task. They're trying to figure out the meaning before they read the word. When they read words in lists, they make fewer mistakes than when they read the same words in context. Why? Because in grade 1, teachers did eminently stupid stuff like have them look at the picture, discuss the picture, and then read the words. I'm sorry, Virginia, pictures do not generate specific words, but specific words generate certain features of pictures. So the proper order is read the words. What are you going to see in the picture? Here's the picture, not the other way around. Then another thing they do is it's always discuss, discuss, discuss. Frame, think, then read. Wrong! And that's what these poor readers are trying to do. They're trying to figure out, like there's some kind of crazy rules for them.
You kids have to figure out what the words are themselves. I just have to figure out pictures.
By the way, later this month or early next month, we'll be releasing what is 6 hours of interview transcripts with Engelman. That's just fantastic stuff. It's not for the faint of heart. But what he brings up, right, is that, again, these kids have learned, right, based on the kind of education that they have had, they've learned things that are now interfering with their ongoing ability to learn. If you can't understand that, how can you teach them? Okay, so one made distinction, healthy and unhealthy learning, right? We got to be able to read that and see that and what's going on in children. The next thing that's really important and that kind of sets us up for our conversation about reading is that, remember that bookend conversation that we started with here? Right? About coming into the world born learning oriented? Well, that's true, but it's missing something. We come into the world learning oriented, but we come into the world organically, naturally learning oriented to extend ourselves on the living edge of now. Right? We come into the world listening. What we're listening is happening now. We're not listening to not now. We're not listening to yesterday. We're listening to now. When we're learning to walk, right? The sensations that we're experiencing and differentiating in order to do that are happening now. when we're touching something and learning to grasp and manipulate physical objects with ever greater dexterity, it's happening now. When we taste something, everything about natural organic learning that we're wired for is about differentiating and extending now. This is great, for example, brought out in learning to walk.
So the first step, first good step.
That's my favorite part of that part. Now, suppose that the baby had a lag time, and when it started to fall like that, it didn't realize it for a quarter of a second. The baby would never learn to walk. Same thing's true. This is all based on feedback right now.
And people tend to think about it and they say, well, I'm speaking, and as I'm speaking, I'm listening to myself. In some sense, I'm correcting what I've... Well, just paralyze the sensations from your face and try to talk. You know, you go to hell. You can't talk very clearly, right? And the reason you can't is because you have all of this unknown contribution and feedback to doing all of that production that you're not aware of. You're getting lots of feedback that's not listening at all. And in fact, it's pretty crucial to you being able to make all of that sound roll out.
So this natural organism level learning that we are so miraculous in our ability to do, that we have been divinely endowed or evolutionarily differentiated in our ability to do, which makes us unique in all the known life forms of the universe, is all about differentiating our way into the now. But everything about life today in our culture, in our complex world of the Shift Happens video we just saw a few moments ago, is about learning to be abstractly, complexly not now. And for the most part, us adults are oblivious to the distinction between the two. The kids go through this miraculous, natural, organic learning, boom, fantastically well, and then they hit the wall, the obstacle course wall of this confusing, artificial, conventional, technological, cultural, abstract, not now. And they have such difficulty with it, while we kind of are glazed over, oblivious to that they're even made a transition from one to the other. And then they come to feel like, because of the difficulty they're experiencing in that space, there's something wrong with them, which feeds the most unhealthy form of the unhealthy learning. Now, there's no greater example of this than reading. And now we transition from the learning conversation to the children of the code proper, to the main work. So one of the things that I think is really helpful to recognize is that reading is a artificially confusing technological process. It's not part of what the human beings come into. I know you guys all know that. But one way that I like to think about it that might be helpful for you to think about it is that it is a code-instructed and informed virtual reality experience. It's a simulated language experience. The brain is generating, like a little projector, projecting into the mind, a simulation of language. And if any of the machinery of that doesn't work right, the kid's in big trouble. One of the metaphors that I like to use to think about this is a player piano.